This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, good evening. Welcome everybody to Advanced Careers UK Tech Talk Monday, October edition. The theme for this Tech Talk is Understanding Cloud Computing and Azure DevOps in Delivering Modern IT Applications. Advanced Careers UK Tech Talk Monday is a program designed to help elaborate your knowledge, your skills in technology, especially when everything cannot be taught in class. This gives you an opportunity to learn other areas that will enhance your skills, enhance your knowledge, enhance your expertise, and also improve how you deliver your job. Speaking today would be David Ageba, founder, Advanced Careers UK, and Paul Tetti, co-founder and a very senior executive. Paul's wealth of knowledge, I do feel humbled to have him being part of us. I don't know what if Paul wants to say something quickly before I start moving the slide bit by bit.
Thank you, David, for those kind words. Yeah, I've been in the IT industry for over 25 years through a range of different positions, and I'm glad to be a part of this tech talk this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So the way the tech talk would go is that I and Paul will do our presentation, our walkthrough. You can start taking note of your questions, the questions you want to ask, and then we give an opportunity for you guys to ask your questions. So just allow us to make the presentation flow a bit so that at the end of the time, we can now have time to have the conversation and answer all of your questions. Thank you. So understanding cloud computing and Azure DevOps, presented by Paul Tetti and David Ageba, October 2021. The table of content or the structure of today's tech talk would have an introduction to cloud computing, then Azure DevOps module explained. Then we'll do the Azure DevOps walkthrough, and finally we have Q&A. The aim of today's tech talk is mainly on the Azure DevOps because it is one huge requirement now, and there's a difference between DevOps and Azure DevOps. All right. But Azure DevOps is becoming very popular. DevOps as a role is becoming great as well. So we want to kind of break all of this out so that you get a full understanding of what this means. Now, presenting Azure DevOps without touching cloud computing would not give Azure DevOps the necessary justice that we want to deliver. So we're going to go back, look at cloud computing, and see the need for a tool like Microsoft Azure DevOps. So what is the objective for today's program? To help define what cloud computing is, describe cloud computing in like one sentence, and also explain cloud computing such as the infrastructure as service, platform as service, and software as a service. We also kind of get into details about Azure and Azure DevOps for tech leaders like you guys. We do a walkthrough so that you get a first-hand view if you haven't had that opportunity before. And then finally, we have Q&A. Question: are we using the cloud yet? Funny enough, we all have been beneficiaries of cloud computing directly, not just indirectly, directly. But Mr. Man said, I don't know, I don't need the cloud. I use an external drive, and that is the old way, or having to host your services in your location. That also has its own challenges. So technology changes, improves, and cloud came to being. they are all using the cloud. So if you've had Dropbox, eBay, Twitter, Facebook, Xbox, OnLive, YouTube, they all depend on cloud to deliver their services. And these are applications, these are businesses that touch the lives of millions. It wouldn't have been possible or as effective as it is today without the presence of cloud. So what is cloud computing? Cloud computing is a new way of thinking when delivering IT-enabled business services like application development and test. So cloud is a new consumption and delivery model inspired by consumer internet services, and it is end user focused. It enables self-service. That means you can do it yourself, okay? Sourcing option and economies of scale. If I go back to the images I shared with us, YouTube, eBay, Amazon, they can scale because of cloud. Without cloud, it will be hard for someone with their hosting their services in their location in America to easily be accessed by someone in Australia. The latency would be just too much. The delay would be just too much that you would not get value for your money. So for you to scale, cloud is just the way to go. So cloud is essential an IT consumption and delivery model that is optimized by workload. Okay, so the more people you bring in, the more services you need, and also the diverse locations people are, the more you need to have a bit of cloud closer to those locations. Okay, so that it enables workload not just in the restricted location but globally. Okay, so how does the cloud computing network looks like? Okay, the network is critical to cloud computing, 100% critical, because with the network it determines speed, and with cloud you can get speed. Now every device, every internet device, or let me say at least 90% of internet devices today are connected to cloud. Your mobile phone, your mini note, your tablet, your remote server, your data server, your netbooks, your personal computer. So every cloud is. Can you mute yourself, please? You cannot speak, please. Somebody is making a noise. Every cloud is. Oh. Thank you. So every cloud is some combination of a service and deployment model. Regardless of the type of cloud, one fact remains true. No network means no cloud. Okay? Without network, user cannot access their cloud services, applications, data, and user cannot move between clouds. Now, moving between clouds, that's very amazing. You should know what is called data center. All right, those are what we call cloud. Now, data centers are warehouse where servers, computer servers, both database servers are housed, and they are housed in multiple locations across the world. And if you have an application in, let's say, North America, you run a service on North America data warehouse or center. There is another data center somewhere in China that you will still hold the same service, the same application. So if the server if the server in North America is down, the internet, the network can quickly route you back to China. So you can still have access to that application when other networks or other servers are down. Unfortunately, this evening, I think it's the right time for us to run this program. Facebook is down. That means globally, they cannot even pick up a warehouse where they can get Facebook to run. So Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, they are all down right now. But cloud was meant to prevent such things to happen. However, they can still happen. But although you can still get onto Facebook, but you cannot see anything beyond your last view in the last 1 hour or two. Okay, so the infrastructural component that must work together to create the cloud. Oh, sorry about that. I don't think that's finished. But basically, I hope you guys get the message there. So, what are the characteristics of cloud? On-demand self-service. So, user automatically access computing resource, example server, storage, etc., as needed. Okay. So Azure is one of the big provider of cloud computing. AWS is another very big provider of cloud computing. Google has their own as well. Okay. Now, if you run an application, a website, let me just track back quickly or a little bit. 15, 20, or even 30 years ago, or let me just say about 20 years ago, yeah. Most businesses must have their server room. Okay. That means it is the responsibility of the business to buy the machines, to house the machines, to ensure that the machines are running, to ensure that the environment is conducive for the machines to run, and to maintain it. Okay. This is a huge workload on the business itself. But with cloud computing, all of this responsibility is moved over to the provider. So you can now rent and pay monthly to access a server, storage, and then run your application on it. So on-demand self-service. You can manage your server yourself. You don't need anyone to do it, but they've taken the responsibility of you housing all of those machines within your own premises. Secondly, broad network access. Services available over the network can be accessed using mobile, smartphone, tablet, laptops, and desktop. Resource pooling. What I was mentioning earlier. Computing resources, including memory and bandwidth, can be pooled to serve multiple customers at the same time and location independence. It doesn't matter where you are. So if there are 20 data centers that Amazon or Google has, or Microsoft has, they can distribute the resource all over the world. So everyone can access it. It doesn't matter where you are. Rapid elasticity, ability to quickly scale in or out of service. That means you can use more memory when there is a lot of workload, and once the workload drops, the memory drops. That means that your cost, you are being charged cost per unit. With that, unlike when you have your own server room, whether you have people on it or not, you are still spending the exact amount of. But if you were in the cloud, as your load increases, your cost increases as it reduces. So there's more, you effectively spend better. Then measured services, control, optimize service based on meeting, i.e. pay per use pricing model. Okay. Then type of service includes storage, processing, and bandwidth as well. So these are some of the characteristics of cloud computing. Visual model of cloud computing. You have the deployment model, the service model, and the essential characteristics. So we have the resource pooling. I've talked about that: broadband, rapid elasticity, measured service, on-demand service. Then the service model, which is the most popular one today: software as a service, SaaS, platform as a service, PaaS, and infrastructure as a service, LaaS or IaaS. Sorry. The most popular among these three is software as a service. Let me give you guys a very simple and probably shocking example. Many years ago, when you buy Microsoft project or Microsoft package like Word, Excel, etc., you buy it one-off. But today, you pay as you go. So the Microsoft has turned their product into software as a service. You don't own it. You must either pay subscription, and when you don't pay subscription, you would not access that application. This would have been completely impossible without cloud, because those applications require huge memory space. That means you need a lot of machines, enough to serve the entire world, with that application installed on it, so that you cannot access it from your own local PC or mobile phone or tablet. All right. And that is what a lot of businesses have gone into. Almost all of their products have been turned into software as a service, pay as you go. Okay. In terms of cloud in deployment model, you can deploy to public, which means everyone can access your application. There is no hidden space. You can deploy privately. That means only people granted access to your application can have it. That is where PaaS, SaaS, IaaS can come in. And then hybrid, a combination of both. Community would be a community of, you must be part of that community to access that application for free. Okay. So cloud service model, I've talked about the IaaS one, provisioning, server, storage, and network resources. So those are the things that you get for the IaaS. The PaaS would be middleware platform, solution stack, both accessible over the network, and then SaaS, which is the actual software. But you cannot have the SaaS without even having the infrastructure. Maybe the middleware might not be, you might not need the PaaS, but everything must fit on the infrastructure itself, the actual machine that every application is housed and hosted. Okay. And as you can see in the diagrams, for the SaaS, you see software application or service that are delivered over the internet. You can see mobile phone, tablet, email, chat, like tools like Tableau, Power BI, they fall under the SaaS application as well. So the importance of cloud computing for development and test, that brings us closer now to home. Okay, traditionally, there is high deployment cost to deliver software, control and governance chaos in software process because of the company would give put together rules, regulations. This would cause a lot of delay. On-ramp and onboarding of team reduce time to software delivery. But in cloud, reduce installation and administrative costs, because every application needed by the organization has been installed in the cloud by the provider. Low cost and improved utilization of software assets, better governance through standardized delivery of services, pre-configured software embodying best practice. I've touched on that. Tools can be provisioned. That means in minutes on demand. So you can spin up a server and do what you want to do and then turn it down. Installation or setup, self-administered portal to access to software resource for a globally distributed team. So cloud just makes life very sweet indeed. So some benefits, test provisioning. Traditionally, it takes weeks. With cloud, it takes minutes. For testers and automation testers, you know, when we used to run regression tests in those days, it takes us about 1 to 2 weeks. I'm talking about 2012, 2010, 2013, you know, but with automation, it takes minutes. So what used to take us a whole week to do regression of maybe 200 test cases that will manually test, when we run the automation testing, it takes just minutes, 30 minutes, and it is done. Without cloud, this is impossible. Change management, it takes months. With cloud, it takes days or hours because of continuous deployment or continuous integration. Release management, weeks, it takes minutes as well. Service access administered, you will have to administer your service as well, but with cloud, it's self-serve. Okay, you use what you need to use. Standardization, it is complex, but with cloud, you can reuse some of your code to run some processes. Metering and billing, fixed cost. Remember I said if you have your server room, whether you are using it or not, you are billed for electricity and for the time it is running. But with cloud, you can load and then you can, as your load increases, you increase your spend. As your load reduces, your spend is reduced. Server storage utilization, you might be using just 10 to 20% when you are hosting, but with cloud, you use up to 90% because of the provisioning. Provisioning allows that. Then payback period, yes, when it comes to traditional, but when it comes to cloud, it takes months. Okay. So summary, cloud is an opportunity. Will you be able to take advantage of it? We are already doing that as well. Okay, technology is enabling a smarter planet. We must face heads-on the challenges to building an effective IT system, and cloud computing is one way to address most of these challenges. And that is my own presentation. Please just take note of your questions, and I would hand over to Paul, who will now touch on Azure DevOps. And Azure DevOps, or Azure itself, is one of the tools that is paramount to delivering a cloud-based IT team. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, David. I'll just share my screen. Okay, you should all be able to see that. Okay, so just to reiterate, thank you very much, David, for a nice introduction on cloud computing. I'm going to go through Azure DevOps. It's going to be fairly high level, but it'll give you a good introduction and help you to understand what Azure DevOps and what DevOps is. Now, first of all, we need to just sort of like look at the word Azure. Now, Azure, what is that? So before we understand what Azure DevOps is, I need to really emphasize and help you understand what Azure is. So as David talked about, Azure is a cloud platform, and it has over 200 products and cloud services which are designed to help bring applications or solutions to life. Okay, and these applications are largely designed to solve some of the challenges that are faced today, and to create new applications and services looking to the future. And everything that is built, run, and managed, these applications can be done across multiple different clouds. It can be done on premises, or it can be done pretty much everywhere, as David alluded to. And it's all managed through various tools and frameworks that you decide that you can choose on which is available through Azure. So Azure as a cloud platform gives you a very secure environment, exactly the same as AWS, Google Cloud, and these types of environments or these platforms are used by many large companies, as David has explained in the last presentation, but also more importantly with very small businesses and indeed startups and even individuals as well. Azure itself is one of the most popular cloud platforms available on the market today, and it is regarded as depending on where you're coming from, AWS or Azure, Azure is classed as one of the leaders in that field. Okay, so there's a little background on Azure. We're going to look at Azure DevOps, or in particular, should I say, just DevOps. Okay. DevOps, put simply, is a set of practices that helps to automate and drive the processes through a system between software development and operational teams. And that's how it derives its name, DevOps. So it's not a technology specifically, it's not a tool so much, but it's a set of practices which give us quick quality deliveries. Okay, so the focus is very much on rapid delivery, but also emphasis on the quality of that delivery. So in simple words, if I try to explain, DevOps practice will help to streamline and develop the development process so that it can automatically build, automatically test, and automatically deploy, as well as monitor any application and service on your platform. DevOps in the cloud is a slightly different story in the sense that it's easy to implement, and the frameworks that are used, because it's in the cloud, it's more of a collaborative platform. So DevOps in a nutshell is not a specific tool, it's more about the practice which gives us that quality delivery. So I'm just going to go through a little bit on the DevOps life cycle, just for those that may not be familiar with it. So as depicted in this diagram, it's a continual process, a continual evolution. The actual practice of DevOps allows development teams to plan, develop, integrate, build, package, test, release, configure, monitor their work with a set of services and integration type tools. So if we look at each of these stages just briefly there, with planning, the Azure, there's a board within Azure DevOps that uses a set of agile tools which help us to plan and track our work, any bugs that come up, any other types of issues. And you can use this in either a Kanban or Scrum type of way. So it actually is very useful tool to help plan the work that is required. When we look at develop, we're looking at the support of a development workstation. So this could be an individual's laptop or a virtual machine that's housed up in the cloud. There are also tools to help with development, such as code repositories. Now, a lot of people may be familiar with GitHub, and you can either use a repository of your choice, or you can use something like GitHub or Azure DevOps itself to house all of the code, which then gives you the ability to version control the code base that you have for each of the projects. And then we have a look at integration and builds, and what Azure provides in this, or what the DevOps practice provides in this service, the ability to build pipelines and other build applications to help support your application going from one environment to another. So perhaps going from development to a testing environment, from a testing environment back to development, or onto production environment, which is where we release. And then we have other parts of this cycle here where we're looking at packaging. So this is where we, as part of that deployment process, we package up our artifacts. We pull the artifacts from the repositories, we build them together, and then we move them through the pipelines, and that gives us the flexibility to integrate any testing that is required as part of that pipeline. And that pipeline is something that helps us to release our software or our applications through each of the critical stages of development. And then as part of, as we come towards the end here, we're looking at the provisioning and maintenance of the infrastructure, the platform, and obviously monitoring the applications should there be any errors or defects or bugs that may arise throughout the development process. So the workflow that we show here is bringing together all of the joys of development, encompassed with all the operational aspects of the overall application or service, but it's very much automating the entire process so that we have that continuous integration and continuous delivery that David mentioned earlier. So Azure DevOps, or DevOps, has several services. And these services can allow you to, and we're talking about the Azure DevOps in particular, but it allows you to stick with Azure and take off the dependency of building private DevOps solutions. And we're going to go through and look at, in particular, these different components of DevOps in a bit more detail. One thing that some people may or may not know, but Azure DevOps used to be called Team Foundation Server. It then was called Visual Studio Team Server, so VSTS. And then it adopted, it was bought out by Microsoft, and it was merged in with the Azure platform as a DevOps service. So when you go into Azure DevOps is just an online tool, and within this tool there are several different components. There are components to allow you to plan your work, as we mentioned before. It allows you to track issues, code defects. It allows you to add tasks and features, and it's a very collaborative tool which is presented in a board, and you can use that board to prioritize your tasks and use that to complete tasks in a Kanban project or a Scrum project type way. And these have a completely customizable workflow which can be customized to meet your individual needs or the individual business needs. And it brings together the operational and development teams in a more collaborative and intertwined relationship, all with the focus of delivering the best quality software that they can deliver. And the Azure boards can be integrated with a lot of the most popular version control systems, such as GitHub, as we mentioned, Bitbucket, GitLab, and many more. So it's a fully integratable tool. It can also be integrated in with other applications or other project applications such as Jira. So it has many different features that will allow the teams to collaborate, identify issues, and resolve those issues in one tool. The repositories, like I said, they're a repository, for those of you that don't know, code repository is a place where we can store and manage the versions of our code base. Much like GitHub, the Azure repositories has multiple version control tools, which gives us options on how we want to version control. So along with the functions, the code reviewing workflow and other typical version management functionalities are also available. So what this gives us is the ability for development teams to write their code, commit their code to a central repository, and go through an automatic flow where that code, before it is merged into the what we call the master branch, goes through a period of code reviewing workflows. So it can be reviewed by one peer or more than one peer, who will look at the code and add comments, feedback, or approve and accept the changes that have been permitted, and then that will go through and get automatically merged in. So it gives us the ability to keep everything in one tool. Azure pipelines are delivery pipelines. So if you think of water flowing through a central heating system, the water is collected in the tank at the top, which would be your repository, and then as the various taps are opened or various heating mechanisms start to heat up, it draws the water through the pipe. The pipe works, and that's much like what we're talking about when we're talking about Azure pipelines. We have a delivery pipeline, which is the Azure pipeline, and it can provide multilingual support. So when we start off with the commitment of code, goes through that cycle of review and approval, it goes through what we call a pipeline, and that pipeline goes through various stages. And the pipelines can be automated, or they can be manual, or they can be a combination of both. And what I mean by that is, if it's a manual, there's a manual intervention, a human intervention, to trigger and manually trigger the merging of code, the review process, the deployment process, etc. Whereas for autonomous pipeline, from the commitment of the code for review, that would trigger a cycle, and based off the actions of the review, that would allow that to continue to be automatically merged and then progress down the pipe out into a production environment. The beauty with working with something like Azure DevOps and building out pipelines is that the service itself supports many different types of coding languages, scripting languages, such as Python, Java, Ruby, JavaScript, C#, .NET, and many, many more. The list just goes on and on. So this is something that's fully integratable with almost all version control systems that are out there in use today. When we look at Azure Artifacts are things that can store multiple types of different build files. And It allows us to store packages which are called multiple feeds, which allow us to organize and control access to these created packages. The Artifact, or the Azure Artifact service, supports many different package types, such as NuGet, npm, Python, Maven, etc. There's many packages that it supports. Again, it's quite diverse. It's very integratable. One of the unique concepts called immutability is also used in Azure Artifacts. And this means that the package version is therefore unique, and any new version of the package will not be accepted unless it has a unique identity, so a unique number. So there's another way that we can protect the version control of any software application. So we've had a brief look at the pipelines and the different ways that we can manage everything. As part of the pipelines and as part of this overall package, Azure DevOps allows us to create test plans, and these test plans are quite advanced test management solutions for UAT testing, allows us to add some test plans in for exploratory testing, manual testing, and also automation testing. It's a great way to get stakeholder feedback. So the Azure test plans are giving us proper test management facilities for things like UAT, exploratory testing. And it happens in various steps. So it allows us to capture everything that we find. We can then create the work items, and then that allows us to collaborate with the teams. Stakeholders of various application services are also able to feed back in a very constructive and convenient method using the Azure DevOps bug tracking system. So there's additional services that are available with Azure DevOps. So apart from what we've talked about before, there's things like the Azure servers. These help to install, manage, and upgrade processes. Azure reporting, which gives us a dashboard, and it gives us the ability to integrate with other applications to produce reports such as Power BI, Tableau, and any other tool that you want to use to review the data. And it very much allows us to monitor. So Azure Monitor is a very important aspect of DevOps. It's something that is added on as a service, but it's a very good way to introduce monitoring of any application or service that you are pushing through the pipeline in Azure DevOps. So that's a brief, high-level introduction into Azure DevOps thing as a tool. The platform itself is very widely used in the software development life cycle and in that entire process. And it helps organizations, whether they're small, medium, or large, in bringing their software development and their operational teams to work more collaboratively to ensure that what they're producing is of the highest quality and is what we term as clean code. So it allows that continuous delivery, continuous integration, and it very much promotes iterative development. That brings us to the end of my part of this presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Paul. That's an amazing work done. I understand that there are a lot of people that are non-technical here that will find it hard to kind of comprehend everything that Paul has said. So because of that, I will do a quick walkthrough of Azure DevOps. Now, two different things. Azure DevOps is a project, sorry. Sorry about that. Someone is trying to join and was unable to join. So as I was saying, there's a lot of people that are non-technical here that might find it hard to understand what Paul has explained, but Paul has done an amazing presentation. I will just walk us through the Azure DevOps. The point I was trying to make is this. There's a difference between Azure and Azure DevOps. Now, Azure is the service, okay, is the cloud provider services. That means there are multiple warehouses where there are machines, server machines stored there that we are accessing. And without cloud, small businesses would not be able to have a website because you have to house everything yourself and manage it. So, and for those of you that have gone through week 1 to week 4, if you remember vividly, when we touched on software development methodology midweek, we had waterfall, we compared waterfall to Agile, and we also compared Agile to DevOps. And Paul has mentioned that DevOps is a methodology and not a tool, okay? DevOps is a methodology that enables us speed up the Agile process and automate it, most importantly, the automation. Now, Microsoft, in their wisdom, thought that since we are automating, why not have a tool that we can bring every department in one application? So that singular application is what is called Azure DevOps. So this is Azure DevOps for those of you that have not used it. Some of our students are currently using Azure DevOps in their places of work. One person in particular is Kome. All right. Now, the DevOps diagram that Paul showed us, he pointed out planning. You start with planning. From planning, you move to develop. From development, integrate or build. You package, you test, you release, configure, and monitor. And the images that are that are on there are all of the items we can find on the left-hand side. So currently I'm on the overview. This is a complete blank interface or the blank dashboard of the Azure DevOps. Welcome to your project, Advanced Careers UK website. Now we start from planning, and with planning, they have two tools, dashboards and wiki. Oh, sorry, we have a dashboard here. That's a general dashboard for the entire stuff. So we have your entire dashboard to monitor every of your progress. It brings in together charts, bar chart, pie chart, and etc. But we got the board here. And if I click on the board or just hovering over the board, I could see work item, board, backlog, sprint, queries, delivery plan. So project manager, you are working on your delivery plan. Business analyst, you are working on the backlog. All right, the entire project team work on the board. So if I click on board, we have nothing here. For those of you that have used Jira, you should be familiar with this. To do, doing, done. This is more or less a Kanban board, but you can also configure an agile board. You have your backlog where you have all of your user stories, okay, that you plan. Then your live sprint. And my plan was to also compare this board view with our actual Jira board or Jira application. We have our roadmap, which is like your planning. We have your backlog, you have your active sprint, you have report, you have issues. Not too different at all. Okay, so if you're a BA, you are applying for a job and you see Azure DevOps, trust me, it will be a walk in the park. Then we have repos. Now, even though the project team are working on their live sprint, there are Azure tickets or their project tickets in the sprint, and the tickets are being worked by the developers. We can also see what the developers are doing in this singular application when we go to repos and pipeline. So repos represent the code and the repository that this code are deployed to. You can use GitHub, which Microsoft has already bought over as well. It is also part of them. You can use the other very popular one. I kind of forgotten the name now. You know, which is basically to manage your code. This is the developer's view. So the board view is for mainly the project managers, the business analysts. They own that board. The Scrum Master owns that board. And then the other team members that are invited to that board are the developers and the testers and maybe other team members around. But the repos and pipeline are the developers are the owners of the repos and the pipeline. So I don't want to go into technical stuff because you guys might not know that much. For those of you that wants to go into development, this will be interesting, but it is not a must you know this. This is for information sake, especially for the non-technical people around. Okay, so you have your commit, your push, your branches. Paul talk about master branch, feature branches, local branches. For those of you that attend our dev meetings, you would have been hearing this a lot of the time. Pull request. A pull request is just a means for a senior person. When somebody deploys something new, you request somebody to pull it and review it. So the developers will collaborate on these repos. Pipelines are the release processes. Okay, Paul explained pipeline as having a tank at the top, and then each tab you open creates a chain of events. Now with pipeline, it involves the development of code on a local machine by one of the developers. That code will now be pushed to a particular feature branch, and then automatically a pull request would be triggered, and then somebody else will pull that code, review it, and once they make any changes and they are happy, they do a deployment. Immediately the code is deployed maybe to a test environment. The automation script will automatically see that code and start running the automation test. That means you don't need a tester to manually test that. And once the test is completed, depending on the percentage of pass or failed, the code will decide whether to move to the next stage of deployment. So that is what is called pipeline. One action will trigger the next. So from the developer to the tester to the release manager, everything is automated through the pipeline. So you have your release, your environment would be your live environment, your test environment. Your release will be a code of your release. Your libraries are like a written script that you have in the library that will trigger task group and deployment group. Then you obviously need something for testers as well. They are part of the development team. So tester want to write their test plan, their test cases, and conduct their manual testing. So when you come to test plan, the test plan, you have your test plan. So you could create a test plan. Under a test plan, you can now have multiple test cases and then progress report depending on how your test for the particular application went. This could be manual and automated as well. So the automation test will send the report to the reports module, and the manual test would also send the report as the tester manually update his test. Paul has already talked about artifacts as well. So this is Azure DevOps. Now, guess what? You have free account. Although I would not strongly advise you go create one, but if you feel like creating one and playing around with it, you can as well do so. But if you've used Jira, it is almost more than enough for you. The only plus, or one of the major plus with Azure DevOps, is that it allows the entire team to collaborate and view what others are doing. Okay, so it gives you a little bit insight into the developer's world, which you would not have if you focus on Jira or any other standalone project management tool. Now, as I said, Azure DevOps is completely different from Azure itself. Although we don't have the full Azure account, but this is basically Azure account. You can get the free account as well for Azure, but a lot of you would not necessarily need it. It says that you have popular service free for 12 months plus 25 plus service always free. Azure has over 2,000 services, as Paul, or 200 rather, services as Paul mentioned. All right. But if you're a non-technical person, you don't need it. If you are a project manager, a business analyst, a software tester, you can just get the free account for Azure DevOps and get yourself acquainted to it. But you don't need to be you don't need to stress about it, because once you've used Jira or play with it a little bit, it's enough when you go for interview to have a conversation with the interviewer. That said, I want to say thank you guys for joining in. I think we would now give opportunities for Q&A.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Muftar.
Yes, sir. I couldn't join early, but I said I can still ask some few questions. I hope you're doing fine today, sir.
Yes, I am.
Okay. This the business analyst you talk the business analyst you talk about, is it the same thing for CBAP?
Yes, CBAP is just a qualification, a globally accepted qualification, but we provide you the work experience more. Yeah.
Okay, that prepares you to write the certification for CBAP.
Not 100%, but it aids you up to like 80%, because whatever you're studying, CBAP is more theory and exam based. We are more practical based. So when you're studying for the exam, you already know what you're studying.
I get, but it's like a part. It's like a part to the certification.
Depending on how you see it, I'll say yes.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if Juliet is here. Juliet recently wrote the CBAP exam. If she's here, she can add to that. For me, it is the BCS that I have. but okay, she's not here, but you can speak to Juliet, all right, to give you more information. Yes. I
Okay.
tell everyone that every once you do a program, every examination, you need to understand their structure and then their optional question, where the question are coming from. So we are not focused on that. So you need to do all of those things, but all of the items you cover in CBAP, we would have covered it up to 90% at least.
That's in your own tutorial.
Not just tutorial, in our work experience program.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, sir. That's a nice one. I will like if you share Juliet's number with me, because
No
my
worries.
own goal is to write this certification.
All right, no problem.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Cloud computing, Azure DevOps. Does anyone have any question relating directly to what we've done today? Are you guys stunned?
Sir, another thing again, Muftau again. This 1 hour session, is there a way I can get the link after the whole thing?
We will share it on the general group and also email it to you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
I was just driving home now.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Izinobi, Patrice, Uduak, Chris, Sam, David, Ni, Olu. No question. Are you guys sure you guys were in this class?
Good evening, David.
Hello,
Good evening,
David.
Hi.
This
Yes.
is David Harry.
All right.
Sorry.
No?
This is Adebayo speaking.
Carry on, David. Carry on, David.
Okay.
Okay. The question
So
I
somebody
want to
else.
ask is basically on
David, carry on.
Somebody else speaking. Can I go on?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much. I actually joined late, but I want to believe that I was able to grab one or two things from the last presentation by Paul and you. Okay, I want to believe you made me to understand that the Azure DevOps is more like a one-stop shop for practically every project team that is working, the business analyst, the project manager, and the tester, and all what have you. In what way? My question now is that in what way is it more important compared to the Jira board that project managers use? Which is more important? Is it that now in the tech world now we are diverting from the Jira board to dev since they are creating a bigger platform? That's my question.
if I can just answer there with Jira, I like to just try and explain to use Jira and Azure DevOps as two separate tools. The Azure DevOps tool is very well suited to development teams and operational teams, and this is for them to collaboratively come together to make sure that the software that they're producing is of the highest quality possible, and it provides them with the means to automate everything that they're doing. And when we look at the board within that, those sorts of things are tracking the tasks that they need to do in order to get that piece of software out. It will hire, and it's a way of them recording, if they choose to use that board, the bugs that pertain to getting the software out. When we look at Jira, Jira is more of a tool that is used by product owners to create Jira ticket, and for the development team to use to create tickets within the tool that pertain to the creation of the application or service that they're building with the business. And I think it's important with any company to keep those two areas separate. If you start to involve non-technical people into Azure DevOps, they may just, they'll have visibility on repositories and other bits of information that is not relevant for them. And often, in my experience, when people see something that they don't have access to, they then start to want access to it, and that can lead down the wrong path. So I personally keep two tools, Azure DevOps and Jira. Jira is more for business to integrate with the technical team, and then Azure DevOps is purely for the technical team.
Let me add
that's answered your question.
That. Then let me add to that, but also I'll counter Paul a little bit. Pardon me, Paul.
No, you go ahead.
I'm used to doing that, so it's fine. Yeah, you. I don't want us to. I want us to be very progressive, Paul. That's the reason why I compared both. Now, David, depending on the organization, I have worked or even seen organizations keep these two tools. Okay. Jira is fantastic when it comes to agile project management, but Microsoft, somebody say Microsoft is a copycat business. All right, and I agree totally. Now, since Jira came to town many years ago, there are several tools that have come to try to compete with Jira. Now, the module, the board module in Azure DevOps is to replicate as much as possible what you have in Jira. Okay, yeah. But the initial intention is for the development team, as Paul has mentioned, to be able to work smarter, more effectively, and more efficiently. But we should also bear in mind with trend, so that we don't get left out. With IT, we know how things move very fast.
Yeah.
So there may be a company that are using just Azure DevOps for the entire department
project
in that tech team. But if you look at the features in the board and the features in Jira, you'll see similarity. I know Paul is a master and lover of Jira. I'm a semi-master and lover of Jira as well, and I don't intend to leave them. But I've also seen other tools that are coming out that are competing one way or the other. But once you know one tool, that is it. Any other tool that you see, it is hardly to be different, especially when it comes to agile project management.
It's an addendum. Any other tool is an addendum to the existing one. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We are running out of time because there's something else happening in the next 10 minutes, and we need to round up in the next 2 minutes. If anyone has any question, please do it. If not, once Facebook come back on, WhatsApp comes back on, then you can drop a message on the group.
Please, David, how do you create a free account on Azure DevOps?
Just go search Azure DevOps. You'll see the option there.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Who had a fantastic evening? MEB, Jumoke, Avura, Judraji, AA, Korode. Nobody had a fantastic evening today?
I did. I had a great time, David.
I did. I had a great evening.
Thank you.
I came late, but I'm enlightened. Thank you.
All right.
I'll expect the link and Angela's number.
I didn't have a great evening. I'm just coming in.
All right, that's your own fault.
Did you record it, David? Please don't send it to me.
As usual, you get it on the general group once WhatsApp is back up and via email. All right, have a good evening. Good night.
Thank you.
Having issues, right?
Good night.
Yes. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
No. The guys in the project kicking off today, please remember to join at 8:30. Thank you.
Yes, David, sorry. Did you just say WhatsApp is having issues? Because I was trying to send messages, not going through.
Yes, it's just said that
WhatsApp,
WhatsApp is having
Instagram,
issues.
they're all down.
Okay.
They're all
I
down.
was thinking it was from my phone.
These guys
All
that
right.
are doing their project today, please join the meeting by 8:30 with the same link. Please, thank you.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Tosin.